Summer's coming, and as the days get hotter, sheep are ready to have their thick woolly coats, known as fleeces, taken off. It's like a big animal haircut happening around the country, and it's called shearing.
You have to learn how to work with them and how to make them as relaxed as possible. As you can see, when they realise you're not going to do anything too rough to them, they'll mostly sit there. I'm going to start off with the little fluffy socks, which will be separated out through the belly, remove the body wool, and then let you have a look at what it looks like afterwards.
James is a shearer. He's going to show us how to shear a sheep. We'll learn what happens next to the wool. With Christmas on the way, someone in your family may be knitting something special to put under the tree, made with lots of love, patience, and with natural New Zealand wool. Your favourite jumper or scarf may be made from wool, the blankets on your bed, or the carpet in your house. And we have these animals to thank. There are 7 sheep for every single person in New Zealand. In all, nearly 27 million. You've probably seen them in fields and hillsides, and they probably look very much the same. But did you know that sheep can recognise up to 50 different sheep faces and remember them for 2 years? This year, because of COVID, the shearing competition we'd usually be going along to watch at the New Zealand Agricultural Show is being held at Marble Point Station, where James is making quick work of shearing his relaxed sheep.
So as we progress with our shearing career, we learn to shear backwards, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but the easiest part of the sheep to shear is the last part. So you learn how to guide the handpiece around the sheep and how to get the wool removed right down on the skin so that we've got a nice, clean shorn sheep that can grow out another year's worth of wool.
A New Zealand farmer and shearer named Godfrey Bowen and his brother Ivan developed this way of shearing sheep nearly 80 years ago. They worked out the best way to keep a sheep relaxed whilst it's being shorn. And the Bowen pattern is a technique that's used around the world still today.
She weighs about 55 kilograms. She spends most of the day running around the hill, so she's incredibly fit. So if she wanted to fight me, I'd be having to work very hard to hold her down.
So if you're a shearer, you're working with animals about as heavy as a grown-up. And did you know, sheep can see what's behind them without turning their heads, thanks to the large rectangular pupils in their eyes.
Competitors, set, go.
Sarah Higgins is competing in the open competition for the first time today. Just like other sports, there'll be what's called a heat and then a final.
And in her first season in the Open is Sarah Higgins on stand number 5 from Marlborough. Great to see her up in the Open. A lot of female shearers out there, but not too many of them make it right through into the Open. So Sarah really leading the charge.
Does it get quite tiring?
During the heats it's not too tiring. 5 sheep is pretty manageable, but if you were to make a 20 sheep final then yes, definitely, and fitness is a massive element of that.
And just generally in your day-to-day work, how many sheep are you doing during a day?
Oh, during a day at work, 200 to 300 plus, just depending what the sheep are like on the day.
You sleep pretty well at night then?
Yes, I definitely do. I'd always worked in the shearing sheds during school and university holidays, and I really enjoyed it, and it ended up being my ticket to overseas travel. So I worked wool handling overseas for 2 years, which is probably what I always wanted to do. And then from there, really, I just couldn't leave it behind.
Wool handling is what's going on backstage or behind the boards at the shearing competition. This is where the fleece wool is being laid out, sorted and pressed into big square blocks called bales. You have to work quickly to keep up with the shearers.
What we're doing, we're dissecting the wools when they're shearing, while they're shearing on the board, for their quality, and we're trying to put like wools with like wools.
Number 5 slides in the hole for Jake. She touches for thank you.
I'm Brittany and I'm pressing at the show. Okay. I'm so passionate about the wool industry, and I love helping out, giving a hand when I can. It's a lot of fun as well, hanging out with a good crew.
So how much wool's in that?
190 kgs. Whew. So at the moment we've got 3 bales, so that'll be just under 600 kg.
It's an interesting fact that although wild sheep will shed most of their wool every year, merino sheep will keep growing their hair if it isn't shorn off. Like Shrek the sheep, a New Zealand merino became world famous after he managed to avoid muster and shearing for 6 years. If they're not shorn, sheep can get hot, dirty, and have problems with insects who will want to move in.
Do the sheep mind being shorn, do you reckon?
I don't think so. I'd say they're probably happy to get the wool off their backs, especially when it gets hot. So, yeah, it just gives them the ability to move around the hill country. So, yeah, I don't think it's an issue for the sheep one bit.
At competitions like this, the judging isn't just about how fast the shearers are. It's important that the wool is sheared closely and evenly without catching any of the sheep's skin. Whilst judges watch the competitors closely, more judges are behind the boards, checking out the sheep to see how well the wool was removed.
We have to judge to make sure the job's done properly, but you'll see later on when the finals, it's a very, very fast-moving sport, very, very super fit athletes, and they're very, very good at what they do.
Sarah doesn't make it through to the final, but as this is her first time in the big league, that's okay.
Sure, I didn't qualify in the Open, but it's a really, really competitive grade, so you know, you've got to be really on top of your game. So I'm happy with how I shore. It was good.
One of the closest finishes of the day, though, is in the blades competition. This is where the shearers compete without machines, using the sort of hand shears or blades that have been used for centuries. Blades are still used in more remote areas.
I'm Tony Dobbs from Fairley. I'm one of the blade shearers here today to try and get the New Zealand Championship.
My name's Alan Oldfield. I'm a shearer. I use both blades and machine shears, and I'm the current world blade shearing champion. There's always a fairly fierce competition here, especially it's the New Zealand blade shearing title. I'll have to beat my father, he'll be here.
Competitors, set, go. Away we go. As they step into sheep number 1 of 5. A big final for these guys, and Phil Oldfield, of course, makes most of the finals. Can't count these guys out because one mistake from the top shearers is going to let these other guys in. Nothing really separating the field at the moment. Alan Oldfield, Tony Dobbs right there with each other. Down the last side they go.
Alan did beat his dad, Phil Oldfield, but the final judging put the slimmest of points between Alan and his former teammate, Tony Dobbs.
And the winner was Alan Oldfield.
The Open final was won comfortably by former World and Golden Shears champion Gavin Much.
Gavin Much pulls down the last side, takes a soft ball, the first one from under the leaves. Bring him home, give him a big hand. Gavin Much.
Gavin Much shore 12 sheep in 15 minutes and 2 seconds, more than a sheep ahead of the rest of the field. So with the winners proudly taking home their sashes and trophies, and the sheep feeling cooler and more comfortable, it's time to look forward to where the fleeces go next. This is a wool store in Christchurch where the fleeces are on show for people called wool buyers. Helen is a buyer and she knows just what sort of wool her customers in Italy will want to weave into fine wool fabrics.
What we're looking for is what we think the wool will do when it's processed and how the wool looks, the style, the colour.
Daryl Harris is a sheep farmer. He's here to check that his sheep's fleeces are looking great, so they'll get a good price when they are offered up for sale.
I really want to come and see how the guys have sorted the wool in the shed. This is really important. It's a big part of, we do the growing, but it's got to be presented properly. Yeah, they did a really good job. This wool, you can see it's nice and even. There's no dags, if you like. That would be the worst thing, or coloured wool in there. There's a little bit there. That's just a little bit. We'll put that over there where it belongs. But that's nothing. They've done a great job. Boys and girls.
Upstairs in the auction room, the tension is building. This is an outcry auction, where the buyers shout out the prices they're willing to pay for the fleeces they want to buy. And in charge of it all is the auctioneer, Doug Mackay.
700 cents, 700 with Mazrael. With an open cry auction, we're not keyboard warriors sitting in a desk somewhere and you can't see what the opposition's doing. In an open cry auction like we have in that room, they're eyeballing the guy on the other side of the room and they're looking at him saying, how much more's he got? Because I just missed that last line of wool and I want that next one. And so things can move pretty quickly. 1170, 1170s with AME, 90, 96, 97, 98, 98, 99. Sold Furman. Over the page we go, gentlemen, to 3086, 550, 550.
Farmer Daryl Harris is watching through a window. It could be a good or bad payday for him, depending on how much of these buyers and their customers around the world want to pay for their wool.
96, 97, 98, 99 we have, 9100, 100, 130, 740, 742, 745, 746, 748, 749, 750.
It's a good day for farmers as prices lift.
171 blocks I've got.
And for the buyers, a good day to keep your sense of humour.
99. What have I got to you? 1499. Go 1500. Okay, I will. 1500. 225, 226, 226, 226 Schneider, yes, 951 Schneider, lot 23, 620.
You've got two sides here. You've got the auctioneer that's trying to extract the last dollar for his customer, and we're trying to get it at the cheapest possible price that we can at the same time.
After paying more money than they probably would have liked, 500 lots of wool was sold to the buyers for a total of almost $5 million. Some of them may be going home with croaky voices.
How did the auction go for you guys today? It was fantastic. Yeah. On most of the wool valuation, we got $1.50 to $2 a kilogram more. I think I'll be having a nice cup of coffee on the way home.
And when you grow up, New Zealand wool will no doubt be still famous around the world. It not only makes cloth for our clothes, but it's also long-lasting, natural, biodegradable and safe. Wool will not melt and stick to your skin like man-made fabrics. It's naturally inflammable, which means it doesn't catch on fire.
So wool, it'll singe, a bit like burnt, your hair. Your hair sort of singes and you have that smell, but you just rub it and it's good as gold.
But our story began with these gentle herbivores. That means animals who only eat plants. Sheep were some of the first animals to be domesticated, that is, to be raised and looked after by human beings, some 10,000 years ago. And humans have worn their fleeces since the Stone Age. Today, wool from New Zealand sheep can be found on the fashion catwalks of Europe, to the carpets in the American president's private jet, Air Force One.
I love getting out of bed going to work because the wool industry is just amazing. Like it's taken me all around the world, enabling me to have a cup of tea with Prince Charles in his backyard because he's the patron of the campaign for wool.
These sheep are already starting to grow their woolly coats back. And next year, some of them might again star in the shearing at the New Zealand Agricultural Show. You probably won't recognise them, but their sheep friends will.